Okay, on time. So the next session is going to be about how to unlock new performance channels. It's important to define what a channel is first. But before I get into that, I wanted to give a shout out to our marketing team that's put this whole thing together and has done a great job, especially with the videos. And a note to all the attendees: we're also watching these videos for the first time outside of the marketing team. So it's just as much fun for us as it may be for anybody else. So really happy to see that. So back to the session. So what I mean by channel in this context are channels are basically verticalized sources of media that in many cases have their own terminology and KPIs. So for instance, you have the concept of open rate in email, or click to install time in CPI marketing, or in programmatic you have view through attribution. So how do they impact what we're dealing with every day? So here's a quick infographic on the evolution of different performance channels. I found this to be pretty fun and informative. So as you can see, various channels developed in various eras. I mean, this goes back 30 years. And if you look at it, e-commerce started as far back as in the mid-90s. And early social media and PPC marketing was there around the late 90s. And there's a lot of demographic differences in these channels. They are based on different age groups and other demographic factors, how they impact people's mobile usage, desktop usage, and so forth. And over time, terminology also evolved differently, and technology and process became segmented per channels. So you have, let's say you're buying Google media or you're buying Facebook media. You can just basically verticalize yourself to that stack. You can go and use all the in-house tools and do a fine job, right? And you could do the same thing with email. There's lots of solutions out there, and so forth. And then so existing channels that have been there for a long time don't get replaced by new channels. We're basically seeing additional channels pop up. More recently, the concept of influencer marketing, which again is not a new concept. It's been there for a long time in TV and other media, but you've got now a nano influencer, which is a coined term from just 2018. And this refers to non-celebrities, people with followings of 10, 20,000 people that actually make a material dent in this space. So, so there's a lot going on, and I know that a lot of people in the industry are trying a lot of different things, which, in their own channel are working fine. But, how do you bring this whole thing together? That's going to be the core theme of this presentation. So a fun fact, while I was doing some reading, the first email marketing message was actually sent in 1978. It was a Digital Equipment Corp employee that promoted their machines to 400 users via ARPANET. It was a complete novelty, worked real well, $13 million worth of sales, and a few complaints. I think we would all kill for that performance today, right? And obviously, long time since then, and email went to spray and pray, and has continued to evolve. And now, the theme again is how do you target? How do you manage? How do you manage user experience? How do you manage quality, metrics, all sorts of stuff. So essentially, what's happened is we've ended up with a siloed multi-channel approach. As I mentioned earlier, so we have email has its own set of tools. You have social, Facebook being obviously the big gorilla there. They have their own set of tools, right? And they work very well. And then same for influencer and programmatic. So you have lots of RTB platforms you can buy from. And you can do programmatic on other channels as well. So programmatic is a broad term here. And pay-per-call, again, is been around for a long time and will continue to evolve. And e-commerce, I have e-commerce as a channel, even though it's more of a fulfillment mechanism, but it's in a way it deserves a spot as a channel because it is so unique. So quick segue into the distribution of channels across the marketing funnel. A lot of you may be familiar with this. It's a popular marketing funnel graphic. So you have various stages of a consumer. where the consumer goes through discovering something, becoming aware of something, and then considering it and researching it, and then finally, making a purchase. And then after that, you have the concept of returning user, retention, re-engagement, and then how do you expand in your user base? So you have all these different channels that add value in a very unique way to these different stages of the funnel. Now, some channels, are more broad than others. You could say social is one good example of that, and others are very focused on one thing or another. But largely, to have a broad impact, you need to address the entire funnel, and then also you need to be able to address multiple channels. But then going back to the previous concept of having to manage each channel in a very siloed way, that becomes a pretty untenable situation quickly. So, how do we solve that? The end goal here is really going from a multi-channel siloed approach to an omni-channel concept. More and more brands are increasingly going cross-channel to unlock the full value of their efforts. So as a brand, or as any marketer for that matter, you need to discover new users who become aware of your product or service and then engage with it. You build some stickiness, you have brand recall, and then you have, multiple impressions before the user, goes to the stage of buying something, and then retaining that user and so forth. So you invariably will have to deal with other channels over time. And how do you do that in a combined way, right? Essentially, you need to tie all of this together. And that's where we feel that, we can help. And this is something that's become clear to us over the years, where as we started catering more to mobile network segment years ago. And then over time, we've evolved into all these different channels. And one of the things that's become clear is, there's significant value to be achieved in having a singular view of your entire marketing effort. And as we built depth into all these different areas of the market, it's become clear to us that we can't do that at the expense of losing the uniform look and feel and the product functionality. So what I'm going to do is the next few slides, we're going to tie into some detailed points that were covered in other sessions. So we talked about, smart links, we talked about tracking and so forth. So a lot of these things are going to, tie into that, but I'm going to stay a little bit higher level. So first off, influencer. So this is a very big growth segment. We see this across the industry. A number of you may also be experiencing the same thing. So there's, two big feature points that we use to address that. So these two can tie together very nicely as well, but they're not necessarily technically tied to each other. So concept of a coupon code. In one of the previous presentations, Bonnie talked about coupon code, right? Essentially, a coupon code is a promo code. We've had radio and television and many other forms of print media use that for a long period of time. And then you can also tie that to a vanity URL, which is, obviously a key thing for influencer marketing. Nobody wants to see a classic tracking link being run. This is something people can just remember. So there's one example that's out there. So you can basically have a vanity URL that has a coupon code tied directly to it, or you can have a coupon code on its own. Another way we bring value to this is by, bringing partnerships. So our partner team's been working pretty hard to develop our partner base, and we've done a pretty good job of that over the last year. So in this case, we work with Sephora, Aspire IQ, Lumanu, and we'll be continuing to grow this over time. So programmatic, this is again something that's been around for a long time. This again can be sometimes cross-channel because you can buy media programmatically from lots of independent RTB platforms, but you can also buy that off of search, and you can also buy that off of many other channels. So, what we bring there is a suite of capabilities, starting with impression tracking. So impression tracking is pretty basic on its own. What we do is we provide full detailed analytics at the impression level, so that when you're doing your media buy, that actually acts as a sanity check to ensure that whatever your RTB platform or whatever your media buying platform is telling you is actually the case, because you can reflect that reporting data inside Everflow. So for instance, if you're targeting 2 countries and 2 platforms and you're blacklisting certain sites, well, you will have clear visibility into that in Everflow. So that's where it becomes really handy. And then the segue from that is view-through attribution, which again is becoming more and more prevalent in the industry. So we see, more brands and more advertisers demanding this. So, we have a very comprehensive suite of impression tracking and view-through attribution. And then data management system is a new product we released recently. So this is a concept of consolidating all your suppression and targeting data. So if you think about, media buying, this is skewed heavily toward just mobile, right? So you're doing CPI campaigns or even other campaigns. Esports and that sort of stuff is also very big here. You want to not be serving impressions or spending your money on users that have already been acquired, or you want to be targeting certain users that you believe are a affinity group that would yield you what you're looking for. And that data can come from in-house campaigns previously run, that can come from third-party partnerships, or that can come from MMPs also in the case of mobile. So we basically have built a automated system to let you pipe data into that and then be able to extract that data and deliver it wherever that data needs to be enforced. So that could be, again, we could start with Everflow itself. So you could basically have a suppression file inside Everflow where you don't want to market to 100 million users that may have already installed an app, because that's wasted media spend. Or you may actually want to move that further upstream to an RTB platform where you're buying media, so that you're not spending money there for clicks that are eventually not going to yield anything. So this is something that's rapidly being evolved, and we're working pretty closely with a bunch of clients, and we plan to do some interesting things here in the coming times. And then there's a reference to a case study we did with one of our clients, Yellowhammer, on programmatic media buying. We can send the full text of this to you and as part of this, and we'll post that in the chat.
Yeah, and one thing to mention on the Yellowhammer case study was that, like, the sort of takeaway from it was that there's certain programmatic channels that are not built to drive clicks. So if you're only doing click tracking, you're going to evaluate those channels and those like placements as like lower quality. But as soon as you add view-through attribution, there's placements that don't deliver a lot of clicks that actually drive a ton of sales. So you really want to test some stuff with click tracking and some stuff with view-through attribution, because there's totally different results between the two.
Good point. Thanks, Michael. So next is social. We already got a little bit of a talk on this earlier. So, we again can do performance funnel tracking for Facebook. There's an example on the right, which is going to show you how Facebook pixel code is embedded inside Everflow. So you can now track all your Facebook campaigns directly here, as well as report conversions back or events and conversions back to Facebook. And then again, I'm going to tie other concepts which were talked about in previous conversations. Direct linking with coupon codes is also something that integrates very neatly into this. So we support this across the board for all social media content. And I know that this is there's a lot of detail here, and some of that was covered in other sessions, but this is something we're happy to address questions on in Remo. Pay-per-call, this is again not a new channel. This has been around for a long time. It's there's certain verticals where it really, really works well, and we've done some interesting work here where we're broadly integrated with pay-per-call tracking with Ringba, Invoca, and Retriever. And then what that means is, depends on integration to integration. Some are simpler than others. In some cases, we are completely mirroring data to a much higher degree than others, where we might just be sending traffic through them and then receiving a conversion data back. So all of the conversion and event data is integrated inside Everflow reporting for pay-per-call. Email, this has been around for a long time. So we've again built a good set of partners here, we continue to enhance our functionality in this area. So robust creative support for email. We recently rolled out a bunch of enhancements for this, and we'll continue to do so as the market dictates. And then technology partnerships, we work very closely with Optismo and eZeppo to manage all the unsub and compliance stuff related to that. One thing I wanted to touch on was managed proxy service. So one of the things with email or push marketing in general, email being obviously a big example of that, is people want to be able to shield their infrastructure and be able to shield their domains or whatever it may be. So what we've done is we've actually built a proxy service that is a fully managed service that we provide, and that's basically tied to an SLA, and we can turn around domains, IPs at a pretty rapid clip. And this is something that's very, very interesting. I would say it's almost a mandatory for anybody doing email, and it actually is pretty handy in many other channels as well. So this is another topic that we can talk in more detail in Remo. So e-commerce, this is probably one of our biggest growth segments, not just ours, in the industry. What's happened, with the recent developments is this is not a new trend. This has been happening for quite some time. I think what's happened is it's just rapidly accelerated a shift. All of us, we've been at home, and e-commerce as a result has taken off big time. And that's reflected in the public markets as well as in the growth of all the companies in the space. So, we integrate very closely with Shopify. We have a one-click based app integration. We also can do integrations with, or have ability to integrate with BigCommerce and WooCommerce for cases where that's needed. And then there's a bunch of additional partnerships that we have as listed here. And then one of the interesting things here is partnerships. Again, for each one of these channels, partnerships are very important. Here we can actually introduce folks to demand partnerships through EverExchange, which is going to be talked about in detail in other sessions. But this is something where as a service provider, we're happy to facilitate and automate partner discovery, advertiser discovery, and enable that exchange to happen on its own. So the idea is to be able to track all of your channels in one platform: unified reporting, unified analytics, media management, and processes, right? So media management also means partner management or affiliate management. I mean, for those of you who are already working in multiple channels and others who will probably be working in multiple channels over time, you can imagine having to deal with reporting in Facebook and reporting in Google and reporting in a whole host of other platforms. And those are all different platforms, all different metrics, oftentimes not updated in real time or not at the same time. And then how do you manage your quotas, your budgets, your caps, and a whole host of other things, right? And I'm not even getting into like all the CRM type stuff or invoicing or payments and that sort of stuff. So one of the things that we've run into over time and found some pretty good success with is this concept where people can actually tie all of that together inside Everflow. And then on top of that, we're getting more and more requests about building more CRM functionality, because if you're now managing all these different partners and affiliates in one place, then you might as well roll more and more business process into it. So that's something that we continue to evaluate and act on as the need dictates. So bringing it all together, to summarize, I mean, this is, we believe that based on what we've seen with our own client base and the growth in the market in this area, the omni-channel management is the key here, because anybody trying to achieve scale, you're not going to just depend on one channel. There are exceptions out there, but largely people are doing a variety of things with a variety of partnerships and variety of channels, and making that all work is very key. So from Everflow perspective, what we bring is centralized channel management, right? So you can actually tie everything into one platform, set channels at the offer level, right? I mean, this is something that is pretty elementary, but it's pretty important in the value it provides when when you're able to actually take your silos, tie them together, and have a uniform look and feel and functionality. All the reporting and analytics, you can actually slice them by channel. So you can actually have a detailed view into a channel, or you can have a uniform view of a campaign across multiple channels. And all of this functionality is also pushed wherever it's relevant to the partner interface. So all your affiliates also get to have that level of visibility. And again, to reemphasize EverExchange, I mean, that's where you discover new partnerships and you discover new channels on the supply side, as well as, on the demand side, especially with e-commerce and direct brands. Happy to take any questions.
Cool. So I'll just read off some of the questions that have come in. So the first one comes from Amy, and she says, if you're looking at your overall media mix contribution and other channels into Everflow, are you paying for clicks for both those platforms and Everflow?
Well, we can't. So cost of media that you acquire from a Facebook, for instance, or, even if you're doing an email drop, I mean, that cost of media is that cost of media. That's outside of Everflow, right? What we're bringing is tracking, measurement, analytics, partner management, a whole host of, features around CRM related to that. So yeah, the short answer is yes, but that's simply because we're not a source of media. The sources of media exist in third parties, and you pay for them based on whatever your deal is with them.
Yeah, I'd say the other thing to mention there is just that our pricing is built for scaling. So, I mean, we have clients sending 1 billion clicks a month. So it's structured to be fair at all levels, where it can cover more and more clicks as you go up the tiers.
Yeah,
cool.
That's a good point.
Next question is from Stacy. So regarding not having affiliate section in the Everflow UI, usually that just means that what we normally label as partner is the same as affiliates. And if you don't have partner section, you can just ask customer success to open it. Every single client in Everflow has access to every single feature. We just do some UI optimization at the beginning to hide sections that may not be relevant to you under roles. But everyone has all the features. It's always available, and you can access it under configuration roles or talk to your customer success representative and they can open it up for you. But the difference between affiliates and partners is non-existent. It's just different terminology for different audiences.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning sometimes there's so much customizability in the platform that there are industry standard terms that people may be used to that they don't find. Doesn't mean they don't exist, the concept. So in the UI here, partner is affiliate management. It's just that it's become a term that's, taking over the word affiliate.
Great. Next question from Stacy is, when will the integration with Connective be complete?
I don't remember off the top of my head. We'll get back to you on that. Let me make a note of it.
But yeah, we're working directly with them. So we're trying to make this happen as soon as possible. So we'll follow up on that. Next up from Amy, can you make dynamic affiliate commission decisions based on the channel path so you can manage costs, paying for clicks at the top and outcome at the bottom?
So dynamic, read that again, Michael.
It might be easier for you to look at the chat itself.
Oh, sorry.
This one's a little bit complicated to read out.
Yeah. I'm trying to see when I'm in screen share mode where the chat is.
So it's basically about dynamic affiliate commissions for managing costs.
So dynamic affiliate commissions based on what? I mean, in the end, everything that's dynamic is pivoting off of something, right? So I'm not quite sure the reference to that question. I think this might be better addressed if we take it offline in Remo so that we can make sure we understand it well.
But the answer is yes, you can handle CPC tracking inside of Everflow. It's possible to do dynamic payouts where you're actually feeding in the CPC cost from a media buying channel, and then it will show up inside your system under payouts. And we can explain more about how to do this on Remo, as it can be a little bit complicated in the best setup and everything. But it's definitely possible.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I am in Remo. I'm going to remain there. So let's take this there.
Yep. And affiliate payouts and stuff can also be adjusted dynamically based on tiered roles. 1 second. I will link Remo again. So Remo is the virtual meeting space. So you can just go to the link that I put in chat, and that will let you sit down and chat with our team. We have a lot of customer success there. We have a sales team, and then of course there's other attendees. Any last questions on this?
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to hand this back over to Michael.